I'm probably the most amount of bioslacker and a biohacker in a way that I'm like, I
like that bioslacker.
Yeah.
Sometimes you got to bioslack. You got to enjoy life a little bit, right?
100%, because it's like it creates like a healthy relationship with food. So which I've had for so long as a hardcore vegan and like being obsessed with like, oh my God, this.
You were vegan?
For 7 years, like hardcore. Yeah, I was a pain in the ass, no? Michael.
Were you one of those vegans who like would introduce yourself and then say like, I'm vegan?
I mean, no, I was the one that was like, is someone eating bacon? Gross. Oh my God, you're killing animals. Like, I was that. Like,
gotcha.
Very dramatic, no? Yeah. You're a pain. Yes, such a pain. I'm like, I feel so bad for everyone that had to hang out with me when I was vegan. Everyone who was friends with me when I was vegan, I want to publicly apologize for being a pain in the ass. I was like the worst, most grumpy vegan that made every meal about herself.
I was a real bitch when I was on birth control. This is
a safe space. Hi, my name is Aggie, and this is Biohacking Bestie. The one-stop shop for a modern queen, where you can find biohacking courses, self-growth courses, and where you can find the most incredible community of women so you can hit all of your biohacking goals and beyond. Hey guys, and we're back at Biohacking Bestie with Cristina Cataman, who I just met, but I've been following you for quite some time. And I don't know if my now husband sent me your reel or I came across it. And I'm pretty sure if he did, he would be something like, babe, like it's literally you, like she's talking about you. So you're known to your audience as someone who points out the difference between Eastern Europeans or Slavic women and America based on your experience and your heritage. And your videos are freaking hilarious. I die every time I watch them. So I'm so happy we got to connect and we have a lot in common. So welcome.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me. And likewise, I'm really glad that you're enjoying my content.
Yeah, it's great.
I think I found you popped up on my feed. And I went on your page and I looked and I was like, how am I just learning about you? Like, this is because I really love anything related to wellness, biohacking. I'm not myself like involved professionally in that area, but I just love everything related to wellness, fitness, all that kind of stuff. So I think I messaged you right away, like literally saying, how have I just found you?
Yeah. And I'm like, I know, I go way back, which was really, really cute. So where are you from originally? How old were you when you moved to the US? And then we'll talk about the different, the differences between the two cultures.
For sure. So I'm originally from a small country called Moldova, which is located between Ukraine and Romania. Most people in North America don't know where it is.
Yes. In Europe, we do. But
yeah, exactly. Well, and especially being from Poland, right?
Yeah,
you're a little bit above.
Yeah.
So it's a former USSR republic. And I was 2 months away from turning 17 years old when I moved to Canada. So I moved to Canada and I've lived
by yourself or with family?
By myself, on my own, yeah.
So we have a similar story. I was 18 and a half when I moved from Poland to Australia. Barely spoke the language. I was just like, I don't like this vibe. I'm moving away. What's the farthest away country? I was like, okay, Australia. Well, technically New Zealand, but I was like, okay, cool. I don't want to have a Kiwi accent. So I was just like, Australia it is. But what was your motivation behind going to Canada?
Same motivation probably as you had. I wanted a better life and I wanted to just build something where building things is a little bit easier. You know what I mean? And, Moldova has struggled economically for a really long time. Things have gotten a little bit better there now, but just the level of, I guess, opportunities that you could achieve there were limited at that time. And I jumped on the opportunity when I got it to experience something different and to have, at the end of the day, more freedom, because that's what we move to these places for, right? You want more freedom of mobility, freedom of opportunity, freedom to choose the life that you want to live. And historically, Canada provided that for people. So
yeah. Beautiful. So I think it's like, I want to be mindful because obviously I want to present our heritage and our culture from like a very fair lens. And it's obviously, I love your videos and they're funny. And I think it's just like, let's talk about the good stuff and the bad side of things. Even moving to America has its pros and cons. Like there is more freedom. Freedom is also like I don't think I would be able to achieve as much in Poland, ironically, in a smaller country than I am in the US, because just people are just so much more open to help and support. And I moved here without any any connections, with $400 in my pocket. And I was just like, what, like those cliche stories of like, I just want to like figure out what I want to do. And I didn't even know what I wanted to do. But like people have been so open, even Michael here, who we met like 10 years ago, he's like, I want to help you. You should be big. Like you should be like the next Oprah. And I'm like, wow, no one's use Oprah and me in the same sentence. In Poland, people were like, just get a real job. And so for me, it was really inspiring that like strangers are just like, see your potential, even if you don't have one. But like, they just want to see you win. And they're like, oh, well, you should try for it. You should go for it. Like, what does it hurt? And in Poland, there's like, it's like, why are you doing it?
Yeah.
Well, yeah. What's your why? And in America is why not? Which I think it's the biggest difference.
It's a very American thing because even shout out to Michael, by the way, behind the camera there. That's amazing. That's awesome. It's a very American thing. Canada has it to an extent, but now I'm at a level where I realize that it's actually quite a bit more limited. People in Canada are a little bit more reserved. Whenever I'm in US.
Same in Australia, I would say,
It's crazy how open people are, how easy it is to dive into deep conversations with people here, and how willing people are to help you. I was in Miami just a couple of months ago, and it's crazy. Like you talk to people and you're not even asking them for anything, but they're just like, oh, you have a podcast? Oh, okay, let's do this, let's do that. Yeah. There's this mindset on like a national level, it seems, that, hey, by helping you, by
I'm helping myself.
Supporting you, I'm helping myself.
Yeah,
and
it's selfish.
Such a beautiful
it's not
thing.
like this is not a country of Mother Teresa's and Dalai Lamas. People will just see that a rising tide lifts all boats. So it's like raises all boats. So I think I'm butchering it. So it's like, hey, if you're doing well, I'm going to do well. So let's just collaborate.
It's the basis of capitalism. And I know that, you can criticize capitalism. It's not an ideal system, but you come from former communist society. Yeah. I'm sure you and I can talk about...
I was born during communism because I'm 87. So I was like born technically like a communist baby.
So you know what that is, right?
Yeah.
And I think that willingness to help others and support others and inspire them to grow, in my opinion, I can only trace it. Like, why does that happen here, right? I think it can be traced to the basis of like the capitalist system.
Yeah. And I always say to people, like when it comes to opportunities, it's like you need to make the most out of the situation that you're in, right? So like not everyone can move to America. And obviously in the US, if you're here, it's not an easy country to make it. And it's like, it's set up for rich people, like more so than any other country. And there's so many things that are wrong about it. Whether you start with being able to carry arms and whatever. Like, I don't want to get political. That's not the point. The point is that it's like whatever unfair advantage that you have in life, you should use it to your advantage. So why don't we switch a beat? And for someone listening from Europe, let's start with positives of like, what is it? Like, how often do you go back to Europe? And what do you see? What do you appreciate? Because I just got back from Poland 4 days ago, and there's so many things that I now appreciate, in hindsight. So let's talk about the good stuff of being, Central European, because I get so much hate. Poland is in Central Europe, not Eastern.
Oh, there's like a sense of like, we're in Central Europe.
Yeah, and I'm like, how is that different? Well, we're not Eastern Europe. Like, Aggie, please, I feel offended. I'm like, what's offensive about Eastern European? Hilarious. And I'm like, well, because we're technically, I'm like, okay, cool, we're Central. So like, that's like, for me, it's like hilarious because like, as if like
you're more mentality wise, you guys are a lot more Eastern European, I feel like, than like Central or Western Europe. You know what I mean?
Yeah, well, but they like, geographically, Germany is actually Western and Central. Right. And I'm like, okay, cool. Like, so geographically speaking, I would like to point out Poland is in Central Europe. But for me, when I meet my Eastern European friends, not from Poland, I feel like, wow, I have a lot in common with them, just a lot of mindset. And so what's good? When was the last time you went back?
I went back last year, and I'm going back just in a couple of weeks, actually.
Oh, cool.
From here, I'm flying to first Serbia to visit my husband's family. My husband's he's from Bosnia, but he's Serbian. He was born when Yugoslavia was still a country. And then I'm flying back to Moldova to visit family. And you are right. I think you learn to appreciate things that they have or we have in that part of the world when you're living here. One of the things is like the whole aspect of like hospitality. Like when you come to someone's house and you're friends with them, they'll make you feel like your family, which I think US has as well in many parts.
Yeah.
Especially like the Southern hospitality, right? It's like a known thing. I also do appreciate the values that people have around family. Like there's very strong sense of family values. And we were just talking about the whole idea of like, you know, parks and walking. I think it's all across Europe, not just Eastern or Central Europe, but there's this.
You go to a park.
Yeah, there's this like thing where like, well, what do we do? Well, we just go outside, you know, we'll go to a park.
But it's nice. It's like, yeah, you have your own backyard, but it's nice to be surrounded by other humans. Like,
yeah, exactly. So there's a lot more of that. And I maybe it comes from like more confined spaces. Is that the right word, right? There's not as much space as there is like in the United States or in Canada.
But then in LA, there's not a single park. And it makes you realize, I'm like, I just want to meet friends not at home and not in a restaurant. I want to be in nature with them. And like, you can go for a hike, but there isn't like a setup. Like, oh, let's do a picnic. And
where do you go in LA? Like, what's
you don't. You just...
Do you go to the beach?
I guess so, but it's not the same. Like it's weird that there aren't enough public spaces to hang out. And I think definitely miss parks, definitely miss walking, and like that would be I definitely agree with the family values of how like that's just like a priority. And like obviously just getting, hey, are your parents still back in, or so you basically, it's, you know, it's like it's not easy to leave your parents behind. My parents are still in Poland, but I then think, okay, so just keep going because I have a few other points about you. Just
food.
Yeah. Because I was like, I just always think it's super cute that I have to do all of that biohacking, which is what my mom is like already doing.
And has always done. And isn't it interesting that like here you're considered like some kind of special like person obsessed with diet? And it's like, well, that's how people should eat. Like it's not really anything that special.
So are you told that you have to have meat and vegetables and you can leave the potatoes growing up? Because that was what I
but also like if you don't have meat and potatoes at the same meal, it's not a full meal. Like it's and bread, oh my god, the bread.
It's very true.
I'm like, the amount of bread that we consume, and everybody's slim, everybody looks good, right? Well, most people at least. So I mean, you could speak a lot more to that, right? It's probably the ingredients, like how things are done there,
and movement. But I think it's just like even prioritizing like, you know, the pickles and the sour, like all of that is so good for your gut, which is like not very, the food that we have in the US isn't as you know, as rich in bacteria. So definitely like you have kefirs and like sour cream and stuff like that are really good for your gut.
Yes, the we call it brinza, like the feta cheese that we have.
Oh there. We have it in Poland as well.
Tomatoes. Oh my god, the tomatoes there are amazing. And the
I don't like tomatoes actually in the US.
You don't like tomatoes? Oh, in
the US, I don't. We never buy tomatoes at home. I just don't like the flavor. To me, they taste like water. And you go to Europe and you eat it like an apple. You're like, oh my god, like what is it made out of? It's like crack. It's so good.
Next time you plan to go to Eastern Europe, I know you just got back, but you have to stop in Moldova.
Yeah.
We're going to go to, because Moldova has a lot of wine. It was like the winemaking region of USSR. And
I didn't know that actually.
Yeah. Well, it's funny because Georgia also has wine. And I met somebody, it's like a funny story, but I met somebody at a conference once and this girl asked me where I'm from. And I was like, I'm from the wine heaven of USSR. And she's like, oh, are you also from Georgia? And I'm like, okay.
No.
Okay. No, I'm not. You know? But yeah, you guys also have good wine, you know? So it's kind of funny. But yeah, we were like the wine supplying region for all of USSR. We have the biggest wine cellar in the world. I'm like marketing Moldova right now to people. We have the biggest
this
wine.
This show has been brought to you by the Moldovan government.
No, not at all. But we have the biggest wine cellar in the world. And my favorite thing to eat in the world is like a piece of the brinza, which is like the feta cheese, with the tomato, that juicy tomato that you can eat like an apple, and a glass of dry red wine.
But would you have that with bread or no? Just cheese? And,
with bread.
Yeah,
I'd have that with bread.
That sounds amazing.
Yeah.
I feel like we were just talking about it, and for you listening, and they're like, oh, why are we talking about Eastern Europe? I think what's really interesting is that like, I think traveling has helped me realize that like you think, okay, this is healthy. This is how you eat. This is how you sleep. This is how you operate. And then you go to another country and see that people do things very differently. And it opens your eyes to like, oh, maybe I don't have to be on default of what my country's doing, because it's like, maybe that's not the right thing to do things. Just because people in my immediate environment do things a certain way, that might not be the best way. So it's like, I love when you travel or like listen to other cultures, because it makes you realize, I'm like, wow, I have so much, like the options are unlimited when it comes to food and nutrition. And the bread, like bread in general, is such a big part of the household. So like in my parents' house, like if you go to America, like it would be hard to the homes that I've been to know if my friends have bread at home or not, because it probably is in the fridge. In Poland, you know, my parents have a kitchen. It's like the bread holder. It's outside. Yeah, it's
The
like
wooden one?
Yeah, the wooden one. And then there's a cutting board, and there's always multiple kinds of bread with butter that's always out. It has to be warm so you can spread it. Like, and I'm like, we just go back, and Jacob was like, oh my God, I kind of miss it. That like bread is the central part of the kitchen that's like always available.
Yeah. And it's better quality, I find, for the most. I mean, you can find really great bread here too, but everybody will have really great quality bread. And it's so
I have
delicious.
bread in Poland, and I never feel like ill. Like
No.
I just, and in the US, like I have to be really careful because I feel like so many things are processed and it's just not the same, which is, I think it's like, I always joke, like, I don't think I would have to go, you know, biohack if I wasn't, you know, in Europe. And I think obviously there's no upper limit to biohacking. You can be doing so many amazing things. But I also think it's just, Eastern Europeans just have way more awareness of like going out isn't as cool as we made it in the US. Like, I feel like every time I go to Poland, I always say to my family, we should go out. We should go out to a restaurant. Mom's like, my food is better. Why would I go to a restaurant? Like, it's impossible to get her to a restaurant. I think I manage once in a month or two. Otherwise, it's just like, why would you spend that money?
Yeah.
Like, are you crazy?
My mom is a little bit better now because she's traveled so much. But my mother-in-law, she lives in Canada. And anytime we like take her out to a winery or we go to a restaurant or anything like that, she's always like, I could make that at home way better. And like she look at it and be like, but mine is better at home, you know?
Yeah. I hate to say this, but I'm slowly getting to that point because it's like, and I'm just seeing it's this illusion because we just got back from all the traveling. I'm like, oh my God, like making your own food, like the way you want it. And it's like not too fried and doesn't have seed oils and this and that. And which I appreciate that you brought a jar of pickles, which is very Eastern European, to like come to someone's house with a gift. In Polish, we call it wejściówka, which is like something like an entry gift as you enter someone's house. And then, like it's just, you feel so much better, it tastes so much better. It's like, I'm becoming more Eastern European than I guess what I would have liked.
Isn't it interesting? Like, I feel like with age, I understand my mom more and more now. Like all the things that she was
100%.
doing, you know? Even like the idea of pickling something before, I was like, oh, that's so time consuming. Like one of my friend's moms took time off work a few years ago to pickle things. Like she took 2 days off work.
That's something that my mom would do as well because it's the time and
Yeah. And now I kind of get it. I'm like, oh, I totally get the appeal of it. I think
because it's never the same. Like I appreciate the pickles that you bought, but like it's just they taste so different.
Yeah. I know. I wish I could bring you homemade pickles next time.
Yeah.
I only had 24 hours to figure this out. I was like, I need to. What's the closest thing? Okay, Trader Joe's. Okay, I'm gonna go see what I can find at Trader Joe's.
No, but it is funny. Like it's just like it's that like which is kind of like the principle of biohacking, which is like ancestral diet, and we want to make it like the preparation is so important. It's not even like how many vitamins and calories and macros are in a cucumber, but like how did you prepare that cucumber and like where is it coming from more so, you know? So, so let's talk. So we talked a little bit about food and diet, and let's now talk about like wellness and beauty. Like, what would you say is the biggest difference in approach when it comes to Eastern European women and Western women?
How politically incorrect can I be on this podcast?
Oh, please.
There's no limits? Okay.
No limit.
Going into it. Well, beauty industry as a whole, I think is something that I really appreciate about Eastern Europe because the way that we do things there is you can't even compare. Like actually here, it's like a brand name now. Russian nails, Russian lips.
I mean, I only get anything done at Eastern Europeans. Facial, hair, nails.
Because just the level of like quality and care that is put into it is so much higher than it is in the West. And like, for example, these nails took like 2 hours to get. And I know that for a lot of Western women, that's like, why would you waste your time? 2 hours is a really long time. And I'm like, but it isn't, because I want to have nice nails.
Yeah. But it's also, you go for the experience. I think it's like, you not go for the outcome. You just go, oh, this is the time for me so I can hang out with a girlfriend and whatnot. Versus in the US, it's like, we're just chasing.
Exactly. So I think that we, like as Eastern European women, we kind of put a little bit more emphasis, well, a lot more emphasis on looking good, you know? By the way, side note, but I got my eyelashes done for the first time in years. And you know when you don't have them done for a really long time and then you get them done? I got up and I was like, I look a little bit hookery to myself right now, but I know it'll pass. I know I'll get used to it, you know?
I didn't even notice.
I was like, I know it's going to look good on camera, you know, might as well live a little, you know, but it takes time to get used to it. But, you know, I also went to an Eastern European place, by the way. She did a phenomenal job, the girl who was doing it. So I think we put a lot, to go back to your question, we put a lot more emphasis on looking good, and that we don't shy away from it. Like we love the fact that we spend, you know, a little bit of extra time on ourselves to get our nails done or to get, I don't know, some skincare treatment that is going to be really helpful. And I think from that, and I don't want to generalize right now, but from that comes this desire to constantly feel good, look good and feel good, right? So I feel like we, by putting this emphasis on our looks, we keep searching for like, okay, well, what's going to make me look better from the inside? At least that was my path. And I know many of my friends had that too, you know, especially as they like approach their 30s and stuff like that. They're like, okay, how do I maintain this as naturally as possible and continue to have this whole like circle of beauty going on from the inside to the outside?
Because it's so interesting. I want to talk about actually like the underlying energy. And I think that maybe is different. And again, we're just speculating. So like, but let's go
kind of
together.
Observations, right? Yeah.
That I find that for my mom is almost 70. She's been married for 45 years, but like the care that she puts into, you know, even if her top has the smallest stain, she's going to walk back to the house. She's like, I'm in the city. I cannot walk in a dirty t-shirt. I'm like, Mom, like, I can't even see it. And for her, it's like the level of care and for herself, so that she has like a certain standard that she holds herself to for herself when it comes to nails, when it comes to beauty treatments, that it isn't necessarily to, if anything, it's to impress other women than it is to impress men. And I feel like in the US, it's a little bit like, I want to do this because I have a date. Like, right? And it's like women that like, it's almost like all these beauty treatments are so that we can impress men. And just in European, I'm like, I'm not impressing you. I want to impress my girlfriends.
Exactly. Like you can't go to the grocery store without putting on your makeup, right? Or like for the longest time, it was getting ridiculous.
I mean, I look like a homeless person in a grocery store, but like, yes.
Okay, but also you don't look like a homeless person even if you're not wearing makeup. You know what I mean? Like,
but I'm like, my hair is disheveled, and like I definitely walk in like old t-shirts that have stains on this. I'm like, my mom's always like dying. You know?
You've westernized too much.
I 100%. But like, I know that like for my mom, she's like, oh, we're going to a store. I'm going to get changed.
Yeah. Like borderline, like wear heels, you know? Now it's a little bit more relaxed. Like when I go back home, like, okay, people are wearing sneakers, like women are wearing sneakers, they're wearing comfortable shoes. But it was not uncommon, like even, 7-10 years ago, to go to a grocery store and see like a woman wearing heels.
Yeah.
And you could give her the benefit of the doubt and be like, maybe she's going to an event or something. And it's like, or maybe she's just going like that to the grocery store, right?
But I think Europeans just pay way more attention in like I think in the US, and like this isn't just like what's better, what's worse. It's just like the style is very much casual. Like you wear a t-shirt all the time. And I think in Europe when you go, it's like men wear shirts, like even for every day. Like my grandpa, up until he died, he wore a shirt every single day. There's no t-shirt option. And my grandma, I've never seen her in pants, always had a dress on. Yeah. Like that was the thing.
I love wearing, that's like my westernized side to the max. I love wearing yoga pants because they're so comfortable. And in British Columbia, in Canada, especially in Vancouver, that's like the land of Lululemon, right? That's where Lululemon comes from. So yoga is just everywhere. Yeah. Everybody wears yoga pants. And I love wearing yoga pants. And every time I put them on to go like out in public to a grocery store, or that's my thing. I wear yoga pants and like sneakers to the grocery store. That's it. Yeah. Well, and obviously a top.
no top.
Yeah. But every time I put them on, I think about my grandma. I'm like, if my grandma saw me go out like this, she'd be like, what's wrong with you? You're wearing tights to a grocery store? Like, she would just not get it. Even my mom doesn't get it. Like, she looks at me and she's like, are you going to the gym? Like, this is, put something a little bit more presentable on. I'm like, this is presentable. This is the style.
Yeah. And it's funny because it's like we talked about the freedom and maybe the freedom potentially to like the freedom to wear whatever you want, but you also still have an option to wear a dress to a grocery store, right? Like, we just find like, it's really interesting that like we can bring instead of getting Americanized, we can bring a little bit more. Like, I'm challenging myself because I definitely got super Americanized. I'm like, oh, this is more convenient, because I think the word of America is convenience. Like, everything has to be convenient.
How do we make
even if it's 2% more convenient? I'll take the 2% more convenient. Like, and in Europe, it's like quality more.
Yeah.
Like, oh, this looks better. Well, these nails are better. That my mom drives to this woman to get her nails done for 45 minutes. I'm like, Mom, you have 7 salons for her home. She's like, this woman does it better.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
and it's like the quality, her pickles are better, so she's going to spend 2 days doing that. This top makes her look better. It's just like the quality is the driving force. In the US, it's the convenience. I'm like, oh, this is close. Oh, actually, I had people come to my house because it's even more convenient.
Yeah.
Right.
That's actually a very good way to describe it. That US is more about convenience and Europe is a little bit more about quality. That's very, very true.
Yeah. And they would go out of their way. And I always like go back home and I see my mom and my sister just like going out of their way to like, they like wake up at 6 a.m. on Saturday because the best vegetables are from this one market. Yeah.
There's a rooster that she gets on Saturdays at 9 a.m. And like, it could be raining, it could be like no matter what's going on, she will go to that guy who brings the chickens and the rooster from his village, because that is the best quality chicken, rooster, whatever you can get.
Instead of like going to Whole Foods because it's the closest, or I use Instacart because I don't want to go to a grocery store, which is again convenience. So a lot of these things wouldn't really even work culturally. I think a lot of like, Amazon's just entering Poland because it's like obviously the convenience, but it's really,
you guys are like bougie. Amazon's entering Poland.
Yeah. So we have Amazon now, but it's funny how different psychology is behind things that we're doing. What would you say? What is like your everyday wellness routine that you follow?
Well, I wake up every morning, day in life of my wellness routine. I wake up every morning and I start my mornings with hot lemon water. I know it was like a trend a while back. I don't know if it still is. And I kind of alternate between lemon water a couple of weeks, and then I'll do, what's it called? A grass, like a green...
Wheat juice? Chlorella?
Wheatgrass.
Wheatgrass.
Yeah, with warm water. So that's my start. And then I'll have something for like a light breakfast. Usually I'll strive to get like a healthy toast, maybe with some avocado on it. Sometimes I'll have a little bit of yogurt. And then I work out. Because if I don't work out in the morning, it's not going to happen for me. I know for some people, it's the opposite. They need to work out later in the day. For me, I'm an early bird. So that in the morning is when I have the most amount of energy.
I get so distracted. I have to do it in the morning. Otherwise,
exactly. Otherwise, exactly.
It's like daunting on you the whole day. And you're like, oh,
you have to work out.
I'll just do this one message and I'll go, oh, one more message. Yeah. Oh, actually, now I'm hungry again.
Yeah, exactly. And, I feel like if I don't do it in the morning too, I won't feel as good for the rest of the day.
Yeah.
Whereas if I do the workout and then I get ready for the day, I'm like, hey, I'm invincible. It feels so good, you know? So I'll do that. And then actually before I do that, I'll have a coffee. Do you drink coffee?
Sometimes. Like I got so into, I perfected my matcha to the point that I'm like,
you can't let go of it. Yeah. I
have one sip of Jacob's coffee every morning because it's just like, we have this rule that I have the first sip and I'm like, good.
I love it. It tastes better from their cups.
Yeah, 100%.
Like, everything that my husband has always tastes better.
Yeah, we had in our wedding vows, we didn't coordinate. And I said, I vowed that I'll always have the first sip of your coffee. And he's like, and he put in his vows, like, I vow I'll share the first sip of my coffee. Because it's just like a thing. I'm like, I just need one sip. But like everything tastes better from a men's plate. 100%.
Yeah, I don't know what it is, but... It's probably because it's theirs.
Like, do you want me to order you something? No, it's not the same. I don't.
Yeah, I'll have some of yours. Literally just this morning, my husband made himself this delicious yogurt bowl. And he's like, do you want me to make you one? And I'm like, no, but I'll have some of yours.
Yeah.
He's like, just let me make you one. And I'm like, no, I want some of yours.
Yeah.
Like, what is this?
Yeah, it's just so funny. I don't know what it is.
Yeah. So I'll have coffee. I love coffee. I mean, I know there's like all this debate of like, coffee's good for you, coffee's bad for you, coffee. And I'm like,
It depends on your genetic makeup. So like, there's nothing inherently wrong with coffee. Like, if it's mold free, like it's, people say caffeine, like some people can metabolize caffeine really well. So it's like, we've drank coffee for thousands of years. There's so many good benefits of coffee. So like, I wouldn't stress. If it makes you happy, that's the most important.
It literally,
the amount of the endorphins that you're getting from a coffee.
I actually feel like dopamine release. And you know what? I realized somebody told me that like caffeine is the most common addiction that people have. And my husband and I literally sat down. We're addicts of caffeine. But thank God that's the only thing we're addicted to, But literally we will go to bed at night and my husband would be like, aren't you looking forward to that cup of coffee in the morning?
I have the same thing with matcha. I'm like, can it be morning already so I can have
there's just like this ritual of like, hey, you pour the cup, you take that first sip. It's so good, right? So I'll have my coffee before my workout because otherwise it's not going to happen. And then it clears my mind.
How do you have your coffee?
I don't have oat milk, if that's what you're hinting at.
I was just checking. Otherwise, we'd have to leave the podcast.
Leave the podcast. Okay, we're not being friends. Well, it's funny because I actually have a friend who told me about that recently because I was convinced that oat milk is healthy for you, right? Because that's how it's advertised. And then I was having a conversation with her. And she's like, it's really bad for you. You're basically drinking sugar. Like, you need to look into it. So I gave up on that. I'll have it usually with coconut milk or a little bit of almond milk.
Amazing.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't care. Like, people think, like, I go out with friends and they're like, oh my God, don't look at my plate. I'm like, I don't care. I eat shit all the time. Like, no judgment. Like, I feel like I'm probably the most amount of bioslacker and a biohacker in a way that I'm like, I
like that bioslacker.
Yeah.
Sometimes you got to bioslack. You got to enjoy life a little bit, right?
100%, because it's like, it creates like a healthy relationship with food. So, which I've had for so long as a hardcore vegan and like being obsessed with like, oh my God, this.
You were vegan?
For 7 years, like hardcore. Yeah, I was a pain in the ass, no?
Were you one of those vegans who like would introduce yourself and then say like, I'm vegan?
I mean, no, I was the one that was like, is someone eating bacon? Gross. Oh my God, you're killing animals. Like, I was that. Like,
gotcha.
Very dramatic, no?
You're a pain.
Yeah. You're a pain. Yes, such a pain. I'm like, I feel so bad for everyone that had to hang out with me when I was vegan. Everyone who was friends with me when I was vegan, I want to publicly apologize for being a pain in the ass. I was like the worst, most grumpy vegan that made every meal about herself.
I was a real bitch when I was on birth control. This is
a safe space.
I was never vegan, but I was a vegetarian for 3 years. Even though it gets to your head. These things, when you really attach yourself to a certain diet, like you almost make it part of your identity, it gets to your head.
100%, right? Because then you feel like somewhat, it's your ego, like you feel better. I'm like, hey, like, well, I'm not contributing to the death of animals. And then you actually dive in, and you still are, even if you're vegan. And then it's like your ego hurts a little and you're like, oh, fuck, maybe I don't have to, sacrifice my health in an effort to like feel better about myself. Which in reality, it's just like, there's so many other ways that like death is death, and so many animals die in production of soy and wheat and whatnot. So you're still
100%. Well, there's all this research now coming out that like veganism and production, and I mean, I'm not going to butcher the research because I don't know the numbers, but I've seen videos and I've heard podcasts about it, that it can be quite harmful, actually. The production of all the stuff. But I was a vegetarian for 3 years, and I was on birth control for 7.
Wow.
And I would like to publicly apologize to everyone who knew me when I was on birth control, because I was not myself.
Crazy, right?
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. But to go back to the
But you don't really know until you get off it. It's kind of like,
which is so scary.
It's so hard to explain. It's like wearing some sort of like mask that you don't see until you take it off, and you're like, oh, is this what taking your breath feels like?
And it takes a really long time to feel yourself again. I feel like sometimes still I have moments of like, am I like, is there some residual something in there? Because
I mean, so many toxins in the environment, like, we're still like that's the thing. It's just like it feels like almost like a constant battle to like be toxin free, because it's
For sure.
literally everywhere, and it's in the water that you drink and in the air. And I think the biggest one for me is just like perfumes and like all the disinfectants that are on planes and
Yeah.
everywhere.
Were you on birth control as well?
I was, and definitely wasn't like, I was suicidal, so like I had to get off it. And it's just kind of sad that like I wish I knew it earlier, right?
Well, no one tells you that, right? No one tells you that, hey, you're probably having those thoughts because you're on birth control. And if you get off of it, you will probably feel better, right?
Yeah,
Like, I
and
was never
maybe
told
you're
that.
not a bitch or need,
Yeah.
or have a personality disorder. Maybe you're just on birth control.
Yeah, exactly. Isn't that crazy?
It is. Yeah, no, it's really interesting that it's like, yeah, like it makes you appreciate the human biology, and it's very humbling to see that even though technically on paper there should be no side effects, yet something about suppressing your reproductive organs make you depressed as a species.
Well, and messing with your hormones.
Yeah.
I get flack for this. I speak up about this quite often because I experienced it on myself. And I know many women who gotten so messed up from it. And I get so much flack from people telling me, you're not a medical professional, you shouldn't be speaking about this. And I'm like, you're right, I'm not a medical professional, but I'm someone who experienced it on myself.
Yeah.
Like, I've felt the side effects. Doesn't that count for something? Like, I don't have to be a medical professional to know
To share
what
your
my
story.
body is feeling and how it felt, and to share my story.
Yeah.
Why am I being silenced about this? Like, this is weird, And yeah, I mean, there's all sorts of stuff about that, and the whole, even some women who, like, I know them personally, who would go to their doctor and say, like, I'm depressed, and there would be no question about the birth control. They would just say, well, let's take a look at potentially getting you hooked with antidepressants, which is like, now you're on birth control and on antidepressants, right?
Yeah.
So,
and it's interesting. I actually want to bring that up because I think it's like what makes it really challenging to be in the US is that like lack of community and lack of support. I think what I appreciate about Europe in general, that there's like bigger focus. And again, this obviously is very individual, but I think there's a little bit of a bigger focus in understanding that it takes a village to raise a child. And it's like, when I know a lot of my girlfriends that got pregnant, they have a lot of support from their moms. And it's like, it's almost like a given that grandma helps you. Yeah. And a lot of my US friends are so far away from their moms and doing their own thing. It's just like they're on their own and they feel really depressed and overwhelmed and they feel like, oh my God, I need to hire a nanny. And I think in Europe, that's what I really appreciate, that there is no shoving away the older people away. It's like I was so close with my grandma and grandpa. They're like my best friends. I would like come from school and be like, oh my God, you don't know what happened. Like, like it was just like, it wasn't just like they're old people. They were like the wise people that I wanted to like speak to. And they, up until their last days that they were like 92, they were both like going to a store and being part of the family and being part of the community. And I think in the US, it's just like you go to an old people's home, right? Over 65. And
I'm sure there are old people's home, like seniors' homes in our part of the world.
Just not as common.
But it's not common at all to hear that like a senior was sent to a senior's home, unless there's some like mental health issues. And even that, like,
or medical, yeah.
Yeah, my grandmother had dementia, and like she was living in her apartment with a lady that my parents ended up hiring, and they would visit her every day. And, but like absolutely not a chance for a senior's home. Like, it's not really a thing.
And I think it's just like a different attitude to getting old. I was just reading, my favorite book again, New Earth, by Edgar Colley, and he basically explained that in the East, or even Eastern Europe, like there was more reverence for getting older, so there isn't as much fear of getting older as a woman, because you feel like that you're still respected. And especially back in the day, especially in the very East, like Asia. And I think in the US it's like, because we're so obsessed with doing, old means, oh, you're just not relevant, or you're not as needed, and you're kind of like useless. And so it's much harder for people to feel needed. And like it's a scary perspective to know, like, well, if I get old, I'll be all alone in old people's homes waiting to die, almost. Versus
Yeah.
like, oh, I know I have to take care of the grandkids and I need to be, I'm needed, right?
Right, right. I will say though, also in US, the whole like wellness community and the way people view wellness and fitness, like some old people in US are like not old, you know? Like what's this guy's name? He lives in Miami. Mark Sisson.
Do I know him? I don't know.
Is he the right guy? I have to make sure. I
Okay,
think
cool.
so. He's 70. I have to take a look at this because I want to
Yeah,
make
take a
sure.
look, take a look.
I think it's Mark Sisson. He's 70. He looks like he's maybe 40.
Wow.
Like he trains every day. He does all these things. He takes care of his body. I feel like, you know, we're not trying to like say bad things about North America because there's lots of great things. There's a reason why you and I live here, right?
And I mean, I love it. And it's like,
I love
we're
it
just
here,
like
yeah.
showing like
The
you can
differences.
pick, yeah, like these are the two cultures that you can pick from and like which one resonates with you more.
Exactly.
right?
And there's certain things that I feel like we do really great in Eastern Europe that we could bring here.
Yeah.
And there's certain things that I think we do great here that we could maybe like, if we combined all of those, like
Yeah,
fabulous, you know? But this fitness and wellness obsession almost that there is in US has made certain individuals here, many individuals, the fittest people on earth, right?
Yeah.
Because like in Europe, not just in Eastern Europe, but everywhere in Europe, there isn't, I mean, I haven't lived there, but I feel like there isn't this like obsession with like optimization, biohacking. They're just like, you know, kind of incorporating it into lifestyle.
But it's so funny, but at the same time, it's like I feel like US has this big Peter Pan syndrome. Like I'll do anything not to age. You know, super afraid of death, super afraid of dying because it's not. There's no value in being old. You just feel irrelevant. So like if you feel like getting old has no value, you're gonna do everything you can to prove that. Look, I'm 70 years old and I look 40. But like, which is amazing and impressive. And I'm like, I'm planning on being as fit as possible. But I'm like, but there's also beauty in being 70 if you never really experience like the lifespan and the health span. Like you want to be healthy, but also the acceptance of the deliciousness of aging. Like I know people that they're not gonna be lucky enough to celebrate their 70th birthday. Like, why would you continue to live the same life for 70 years and call it a life? Like every year comes with a different set of challenges, but also beauty. So I feel like if we could actually, instead of like trying to avoid it and prove it that I don't have to look 70, I'm like, sure, but also like, what's wrong with looking 70? Like, it's beautiful, right?
Yeah.
As long as you have the health and you feel good in your body, I think it's just like every.
But I think that's probably part of it because like I think Mark Sisson, I mean, his body looks like he's 40. Like he's like
Yeah, no, which I don't mind. I think it's more like the mental concept that we have towards aging in the US.
yeah.
It's
I
like,
think I'm guilty of that. I'm very afraid.
Oh
of
yeah, of
aging.
course. We
Yeah.
we live in a culture that's terrified of aging. You do
Yeah.
everything, and it's just like, oh my god, like I'm 37 in a couple of months, and people are like, oh my god, you look like early 30s, and they always mean it as a compliment. Like they never say like, oh my god, you look 40, and I'm like, oh thanks, really? It's like you want to always look younger, and you do everything possible because it's as if there was no value for a woman to be older, which is how we're being taught. Are we gonna, younger women are considered more youthful, more beautiful. And I think that's something that I would like to I'd change. If it was like, if I had a magic wand, I could change one thing in the world is like to celebrate women as they age.
Aging.
Yeah. Because it's like,
Well, and for men, it's a totally different story because
Exactly.
men look better when they age.
But
and
that's
they
what we
look
think.
more, yeah.
isn't that funny? The
Yeah.
perception that they look better is part of the culture because we used to think that fat people or big people were very sexy. And then, in the 17th century, like the bigger you were, the better. And then it's changed. Now we're like skinny people. But like 30 years ago, we're like skinny. Now we're like, wait, you need to have a butt. Like, no. Like skinny is just like, oh, is this your butt? No. So it's like changes so much. So like even the perception that men look better with age is very subjective, relative. Maybe in 20 years, we're going to think that 50-year-old men is super
Yeah, something else might come into
Yeah.
fashion, right? And we'll think that like
I'm looking forward to a day when it's like, cool. Oh my God, like women will like try to to get more rugged like men do. So they look 40 at 40. I'm like, oh, wow, you're looking 40. I'm like, really? Already? Oh my God, thanks. I'm so grateful. I'm 36. But yeah, do I really look 40? Do I really look 40? Okay, amazing. Because it's like, who cares in a way? Like, why are we like this? I'm so much wiser being 36. So much wiser. I don't want to be 21. I look at myself, I'm like,
Of course, yeah.
I'm like, you wouldn't pay me anything to like go back to that time. Like, I want to be here now. So like, why would I pretend like I look like a 20-year-old? It was like, my mindset wasn't
I think
there,
a 20-year-old is
yeah.
too young. I don't want to look
Yeah.
like a 20-year-old, but like looking, because I think also 30-year-olds now look younger than they used to. And on the flip side of that, I feel like Gen Z looks much older than
Really?
like millennials. Yeah.
I don't know about
I
Gen
feel
Z.
like.
But I know, like, you know, when you look at the photos from your grandma when she was 36, you know, she had grandma energy at 36.
Yeah.
Not like, you know, teenage energy almost, like, or like super young. So, yeah, it's really interesting. And I think it's just like, it's also like what we're perpetuating. And like, there is like a level of taking care of yourself, but like accepting your age that I'm like striving towards that. Even though it's scary and I haven't had a gray hair yet, I feel like I would like to.
You have no wrinkles either.
And I used to. Like, if I show you my photos from 5 years ago, it's just like under eye, I would do anything to just have like wrinkles. And it's a lot of things that I'm doing. And
I mean,
feel
you look
good.
gorgeous. Like,
Thank you. But like, I want to get to a point where I get my gray hair and I get my wrinkles and I get all of that. I can come from a place of like, all right, cool. Like, I love myself. It's beautiful.
you want to get to that point, like yourself in your mind?
Yeah,
Or is that
yeah.
something? Yeah.
Yeah.
So you still have the feeling that you need
Oh,
to-
100%. Like, I think it's still that, like, I'm so conditioned that I notice myself getting triggered when I look in the mirror and I look more tired. Or I look at the video and I'm like, oh my God, I look at the videos from like 5 years ago and I'm like, oh, I look older now. Right? And that thought of like I get like activated, you know, like my nervous system gets activated. I'm like, oh shit, like I'm getting older.
Yeah.
Because there's a point in life when you look at your photos back and you're like, oh, I look older, but like cool. And now you're like, oh, I look older, but like, oh no.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
like, I want to deactivate that programming because it just doesn't serve me.
When you figure out how to do it, let me know, okay?
Yeah.
Maybe you'll teach me. Because I
Right? Because
I
it's
don't
like
know how to get there.
it's a cage, right?
I don't
like
know
it's
how to
like
get there.
and I'm buying into this and I'm like, I enjoy feeling good, that's for sure. I wouldn't want to trade that. But I think I would love to be able to like have some wrinkles and just feeling like really comfortable in it. And just feeling like or like stretch marks or you know what I mean? Like that full acceptance. And I feel like where I am today versus 5 years ago, which there was very little self-acceptance, to now like it's massive. I feel like I've gone a very long way, but there's still so much room
Yeah.
to like fully like accept.
Just fully accept
Yeah,
every
like-
stage of your, just see a wrinkle and be like, that is my wrinkle that came from, I don't know, me smiling a lot
Yeah,
or like
yeah.
being a little bit grumpy sometimes. Yeah, let me know when you figure that out.
Yeah.
I'd like to get there as well because I definitely don't have that. There was a wrinkle popping up here and I'm like, we need to take care of that.
Yeah.
I don't care how invasive the procedure needs to be. We're taking care of that.
Let's just to wrap things up. What would you say like in terms of wellness practices? Like do you do any sauna? Do you do any kind of like bigger things for your body?
Yes, I will admit right away that I have not cold plunged. Strictly
Yet.
because I'm a chicken when it comes to yet. I
That's
love
right.
how you inserted
Yeah, yeah,
yet in there. Strictly because I'm a chicken when it comes to cold. But I am thinking about trying because everyone who has told me about it said that it's a phenomenal experience and you feel really, really good.
We just do it once. Like you don't have to keep doing it.
So
just
the
like,
whole-
just like for like
The whole fashion trend of it, I feel like I've heard like numerous opinions against it because I guess it raises your cortisol levels. You'd know a lot more about it than me. That doing it on a regular basis is actually bad for your aging because you might age faster or whatever because it like puts such a stress on your body. So I would try it for sure or do it occasionally maybe. Yeah. And
I think trying something once doesn't hurt. I think for cold plunging is like the mind over body to show your body that your body is like telling you, like your mind's like get out and you still stay. It's kind of cool.
I've gone from like hot pool to a cold pool, like immediately from a hot to cold
Oh,
pool,
wow.
which
Look
was
at you.
which was an achievement.
That's pretty much cold plunge.
Not a cold plunge, but it was cold.
Yeah.
It was really cold. It was like pins and needles in my skin. I do saunas and steam rooms. Steam rooms are my favorite, especially like for your skin after you come out. It's just like it
I
clears
just love
everything
how
up.
well you can breathe after a steam room.
Yes. And you appreciate the air more, right?
Yeah.
You're like, oh, I felt like I just almost died in there, you know?
Yeah,
I'm alive. The air is amazing. So I'll do that. And I mean, that's pretty much it. My main wellness routine is just focused around working out. I have tried doing cycle syncing for the past like maybe year and a half, and it's working really, really well because I used to train no matter what, like, you know, kind of heavy lifting and stuff like that. I stopped doing that. I still lift weights. I almost said weight lifts. Lift weights. Lift weights, yeah. And I'll incorporate some cardio when I'm like in my ovulation phase. But for the most part, I just work out depending on my cycle. I stretch a lot during like the menstrual phase, which works out like miracles. It helps so much if I have any cramping or anything like that. And then, if I have a chance to go to like a sauna or steam room somewhere or like a spa that has that, I'll do it for sure.
Amazing.
Yeah.
So cool. Cristina, where can people find you? So they can have a laugh at your hilarious content.
Oh, thank you. You can find me. My main, I guess, place where I spend the most time is my Instagram, which is just my first and last name, Cristina, Cristina. There's no H in my name because it's translation from Russian, and we don't have the H in it. So Cristina Cataman. And you can find my podcast either by searching my name or searching the name of the podcast, which is Catamania, on all the platforms that you listen to podcasts on.
Yeah, amazing. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you for having me. This was a pleasure.
Yeah, so good. So good.